Hello guys, I hope everyone will gone to this week coding question. So the first question is like it's like an ugly number sequence. So what is this ugly number? So ugly number is a number whose prime factor should be 2, 3 or 5 and not other than this. Okay. So 1 will be the starting number of the sequence and it should if the number has a prime factor 2, 3 or 5 it is an ugly number, not more than that. Okay. So there is an ugly number sequence and you will be getting an integer n from the user and you will be printing the nth ugly number sequence. Okay, so if it is like 7, you will be printing the 7th ugly number and such that like. So I'm gonna solve it using Python first. So the logic goes like you'll be getting an n integer and you'll be getting a while loop until that particular, like if it is 5 you'll be iterating for five iterations and you'll be checking each value, either it's a prime factor, either it has a prime factor only 2, 3 or 5. If it is so, you'll be considering it as an ugly number and until like it should be the fifth like for example when n is equal to 5 you'll be finding the fifth ugly number, right? So you'll be iterating until that. Okay, so this is what we are gonna do. So we are taking an integer and we'll be checking whether it has a prime factor 2, 3 or 5 and we'll be iterating until you find the fifth number. Okay, so for that let us get the value of n from the user. Yeah, and now I'm gonna assign a variable called a which has a variable called 1. So basically the sequence starts from 1, right? So obviously there will be a value 1 in the particular sequence. So while n is greater than 1, so I'm gonna iterate until n is greater than 1. So I'm gonna increment this n value so that I'm gonna consider from 2 and assigning this value for a variable called b. So now I'm gonna check whether this b value has a prime factor 2, 3 or 5. For this I'm gonna define a function called ugly. So which takes two parameters. So one will be like the number and other will be like the factors like 2, 3 and 5. So y will be constant, you will be giving y, that is 2, 3 or 5, and x will be changing based upon your output. So while x modulus of y is equal to 0, I'm gonna store the particular reminder in the variable x and finally I'm gonna return this particular value x. So b, I'm gonna pass b comma 2. So this, the return parameter, the return value will be passed again to the function ugly with the value 3 and again the return parameter will be passed to the function parameter with the value 5. Okay, so if b equal to 1 such that it doesn't divide, like it if after considering the parameters like 2, 3, 5 only the remainder is 1, so we will be decrementing the variable n so that it goes out to the next value. Else out of this loop you will be printing the value a, that is you will be printing the nth ugly number. So why I've given b is equal to 1 means only if the remainder is 1 after doing all the manipulations with 2, 3 and 5, it is understood that the number is only divisible by 2, 3 or 5. If the remainder is not 1 and it is another than that, it is understood that it has a prime factor other than 2, 3 and 5. Okay, so that's what. So let's now check the program. So let me just give the input like 4. Okay, let me just go with the test case to which let me like 7. It gives 8. Yeah, it's perfect. And it's like 15, it should return 24. Yeah, it's all perfect. So let us now implement this using C language. The same logic I'm going to implement. Yeah, I'll change the comments and now let us move this code and I'll do it in C. So the first thing we need like http io.h, and I'm gonna implement the main function and then value will be 0. So I'm gonna declare a variable Colin. I'm gonna get this value from the user. Okay, so and then I'm gonna have a variable called a is equal to 1 and b. So then I'm gonna see like when n is greater than 1, I'm gonna increment this a value and I'm gonna assign this to a variable called b, and I'm gonna pass this. I'm gonna call that function ugly. Okay, so it will be like b comma 2 and b is equal to ugly of b comma 3 and b is equal to ugly of b comma 4. It is advised that you go with this increasing order of these parameters like 2, 3 and 5 such that you get the proper answer. Don't go with some other order. If v is equal to 1 means I'm gonna decrement the n value, and out of this while loop I'm gonna print the a value. So lastly I'm gonna define that particular function. So it will be like be returning an integer type. So int ugly of n x comma int y. So while x modulus of y is equal to 0 means you'll be doing x divided equal to y. I'm returning the value of x. And let me check. So let me get the value equal 15. Here we're getting the perfect output. So you can just check out with the other test cases. So now let us go into the second problem. So the second problem is like the programmer has to accept the number of employees, that is n, and the program must print the number of ways to pair up the employees. Okay, so if n is odd, you will be returning 1, else you will be returning the number of ways you can pair up the employees. So it is simple, right? You will be this like permutations and combinations like of question. So when you know the math behind it, you can easily solve. Okay, so if the number is odd, there is no worrying, you can just return 1, so no use. But if it is even, you have to find the number of ways an employee can pair up. So there is two things you can do. So either the employee can be, all the employees can be single and they can pair up, right? Or they can pair up. So there are two ways, right? So the number of ways they can be single, like they'll be like if it is 4 employees, they have n minus 1 ways to be single. Okay, and there's a kind of math behind it, and plus the ways of pairing them would be like already I've taken 2 employees from the n value, so n minus 2 into how many times this employees can pair up, that is n minus 1. Okay, so you can just check in an other perspective, like this is nothing but the n value, that is if it is 4 plus and the combination of 4, that is 4c2. Okay, so when it is like 4c2, that is how many times you can arrange 4 employees with a combination of 2. So this is the math behind it, that's what I've done. So let us now get into the problem. First I'll just solve using Python. So we are getting the n value from the user and I'm just checking if n modulus of 2 is not equal to, that is if it is odd, I'm going to print 1, else I'm going to do this manipulation. Okay, so for this I need a list to call, let me say a list to call ways. So it's like 0 1 2, that is one employee. If it is a 0 employees, it can be arranged in 0 ways. If it is 1 employee, it can be arranged in 1 ways, and if it is 2 employees, it can be arranged in 2 ways. So I'll be appending this particular value to this list, so on. If it is 4, I'll be appending to this particular list, and I'll be printing up later on. Okay, so now I'm gonna calculate from the third employee, right? So for I in range of 3 comma n plus 1, since I have to consider the value of n2, so it's like if base of I is equal to base of I minus 1 plus the same logic, n minus 1 plus n minus 2 into n minus 1, so the same thing. So I minus 2 into base of like into I minus 1. So this will be like base of how many ways, like when n minus 1 employees can arrange, plus how many ways the n minus 2 employees can be arranged into n minus 1 ways. Okay, so that's it. So we've done. So out of this loop, I'm gonna print the last value of that particular list, sorry, of n. Yeah, so let us now print up. So let me say 3, it gives 1, and when I say 4, it's like 4 plus 4c2. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm sorry about it, I have to append it since I gonna assign a list in Python. Yeah, so it's like 4 plus 4c2, it will be giving 10. So that's the logic behind it. So this part, when you understand the problem and you have the math behind it, it's pretty much easy to solve. So let us now solve it is using C language. I'm gonna in the comments. Yeah, so here I'm gonna give the header function. So let me just take up these codes and be like int main, and we're printing 0, and I'm having a variable called n. So I'm gonna get this variable, like number of employees from the user, and then I'm gonna declare a array called base of n plus 1. So this will have values like if base of 1 will be like 1, and base of 0 will be like, sorry, base of 2 will be like 2. Okay, so from the third employee I'm gonna calculate, right? So I is less than or equal to n and I plus plus. So base of I is equal to base of I minus 1 plus base of I minus 2 into I minus 1. Okay, so out of this for loop, I'm gonna print this, the last value, this base of it. Yeah, pretty much done. So the same logic I've done. So let me just check with the output. Yeah, it works fine. So yeah, we are done with this basic coding question. So if you have any doubts, you can reach out to our discussion forum. Thank you.